Hi, this is Kevin Trainer. Welcome to my briefing on Chapter 2 of the Pinkham book, um, Django Unleashed. And Chapter 2 is a pretty short chapter, and it kind of has us do to our project what in our class we have kind of already done by doing the Django Girls tutorial, which is kind of experiment a bit with the plumbing of a Django and seeing what you have to do to uh, uh, type a request into the browser and get a response back in the browser. Okay, it's worthwhile doing. Okay, you should know from the briefing for Chapter 1 that you don't have to type all this code in. You can copy the files from the repository, and I think I went through the mechanics of that pretty extensively in the briefing for Chapter 1. Okay, so what goes on here in Chapter 2? Well, first of all, he talks about uh, sort of the way the plumbing of the web actually works and how it relates to this model view controller architecture. Now, model view the controller, or MVC, is a very popular architectural pattern that's used in a lot of application frameworks like Django. It turns out, though, that the Django framework is a little different. It doesn't have three parts. It's got four. Okay, so instead of having a model, a view, and a controller, it has a model. It has templates. It has URLs, and it has views. Okay, so it's important to understand the four parts of the Django framework. It's nice to be able to explain how they map into the classic model view controller architecture, but I think it would be fair to say that Django has sort of a different but equivalent architecture. It has a four-part architecture that you're able to map to the three-part model view controller architecture. Two parts, URLs and views, map to controller. So oddly enough, the only thing that has the same name is model. So the Django model maps to to the MVC model. In the view, what maps to the MVC view is Django templates, and there are two parts that map to the C, the controller of MVC. That's URLs and views. So it can be pretty confusing. What's really important to do is to keep your eye on the four parts of Django and what they do for you. Okay. So what does he have us do? Well, he has us change the settings to create another app called Hello World. And Hello World is a very simple app that's just going to, when we trigger it, it's going to do Hello World. Something to remember at any point in the text, if you're looking to get this version of the file, remember that we're in Chapter 2, and the commit that this file is a part of. If we want to go find that file in the repository, we want to find 84B2. Okay, so let's go do that. So let's go down to this source tree and let's look at our repository. Okay, and let's look in at chapter 2, and you can see it's not the first one, it's the second one. So how could you get yourself there? Well, you could do the right click, the reset master is the commit, and the whole thing. So the way to know what version of the code from the book you need to spin up to is by checking the commit ID. And as long as you look at the first 4 characters, they rarely repeat. If you go up here, you'll see they're not going to repeat. Okay, so just 84B2 will do just fine. Okay, so he has us create a Hello World application. Then he has us change settings. Okay. He has us put some code into URL patterns. The URL, the URLs files, it controls the mapping that happens when the user either types a URL in the browser or clicks on a link that includes a URL. This is a way to map from what's coming in from the browser to the view that we're going to use. Okay, in this case, we're going to be creating a view called greeting. Okay, and we do some run server, we do some migrate, we do all that kind of stuff, and where we get our hello world. Somewhere in here we do the run and we get hello world. I'm trying to find the view that says hello world. It's called greeting. Must be here soon. Well, I've lost it. It's in here somewhere. I will take a pause till I find the greeting view. I'm coming back. Yes, we had the greeting view before we changed the URLs. So in views.py for this app, Hello World, we create a greeting procedure, and all we do is we return a response. Okay? And so when we run that, we see Hello World come back in the browser. And why are we doing this? Well, we're just testing the plumbing. Okay? That's all we're doing. Trying to understand the plumbing and the mechanics of how things work in the Django framework. All right? And the very last thing that we do is we get rid of all the changes that we had. So we get rid of the Hello World app. Instead of having to do an RM to delete it, you can simply go into your PyCharm project and right-click on that folder and say you want to delete it. And of course, you're going to have to take the name of that app out of settings.py. All right? So this is a pretty short chapter, pretty easy-going. A little more practice with the mechanics of trying to coordinate with the code from the book. Okay, if you're trying to copy over, which is going to come in real handy starting in chapter 3, and just a little bit of education with regard to the overall plumbing of the Django framework and how things how requests come from the browser and eventually create responses that go back to the browser. Okay? So that's it for Chapter 2. See you next time.